Donald Trump was sentenced today.
Oh, was he held accountable for the crimes he committed?
Well, sort of. Not really.
423rd times the charm. I don't know.
Well, he did get sentenced, and at least it was like, they did basically edify the fact that he's going in as the first president, convicted felon ever. He, of course, is not going to get any fine or parole or probation or jail time for that matter. What was it? He got a dishonorable discharge. What did they call it?
Unconditional discharge.
Unconditional discharge. And that was because it was the only sentence that the judge could give him. Typically, people who are convicted of 34 felony counts of this manner either go to jail for a short period of time or pay extensive fines, or lose their ability, lose their ability to have a corporation in the state that they're found to have done this. There's a bunch of different array of penalties for this, but Trump got it discharged. Here he is speaking in the court, being irritated that he even had to deal with that.
Now, if you look, my attorney alluded to it, the top legal scholars and legal
pause it.
pundits.
Incidentally, that's audio from inside the court, but Donald Trump is not inside the court. He also didn't have to go to court, which I got news for you. When you have a sentencing hearing and you've been convicted of 34 felony counts, you generally have to show up in court unless, I don't know, you're strapped to a gurney somewhere.
Or the president-elect?
Well, apparently now that's the case. Go ahead.
Now, if you look, my attorney alluded to it, the top legal scholars and legal pundits in this country, the ones that are quoted all the time on television, that are making their views felt and highly respected people, have said, virtually everyone that I know of, haven't seen any to the contrary, not one. And none of these people are not exactly friends of mine, to put it mildly. But they all said this is a case that should have never been brought. It's an injustice of justice. Very respected Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, Judge David Rifkin, a wonderful man who just passed away, by the way.
A dead guy.
Rick Jarrett. Ellie Honig from CNN, of all places. CNN said that. Paul Ingrassia.
He is the TV president in so many ways. A
dead guy said I shouldn't be prosecuted. It's a justice of injustice, injustice of justice.
It was so poetic. He has a prepared list of all of the TV legal experts on cable news that have defended him.
Judge Judy.
Yes, I mean Judge Janine. She's always got my back. I'm a little creeped out by it, but
Dr. Phil. He's not a lawyer, but he's a doctor, so he's a professional.
He's the TV president.
Also said this is an injustice of justice.
He gained notoriety as a decisive leader via his television program, The Apprentice. And
it worked for me.
All he does is consume television. Yep. And there was for some reason over the break, I was watching these old David Foster Wallace interviews, and he was just talking about, what television has done to America. And I'm going to bungle people can look it up, some of the quotes, but it just the whole time when he was speaking, I was thinking about Trump. And he is both a creature of television and I think his political career is very much based on The Apprentice is baked into people's minds, specifically the cohort that he is most popular with, which is your generation, Sam, right? He's so and that would be the group of people that saw him with The Apprentice and saw him in Home Alone and remembers those kinds of things. So, yeah, it's just funny to see how seriously he takes it.
It's an injustice of justice, and but he goes into the presidency as a convicted felon, and frankly, it doesn't. I don't think it's going to make one lick of difference. And in some respects, you know, we've had a problem in this country for decades of not just a lack of accountability, but a lack of accountability when it's quite clear that something has been, that the public is aware that something has been done that is wrong, right? Like we had a lack of accountability for Nixon and Watergate. He was pardoned. We had a lack of accountability for Iran-Contra. We had a lack of accountability for the Keating 7 and the scandal that existed there. All John McCain had to do was come back and say he was suddenly for campaign finance reform. We had a lack of accountability for the Iraq War. All these things just show the American public, you know, it's one thing, obviously, our government did very bad things. We had very bad players prior to that. But at the very least, the difference was, and I'm not endorsing this, but I'm saying in terms of what it did for cynicism and undermining sort of like the sense that, you know, whether we have a democracy should matter. When you don't know that the crime has been committed, the population does not get so cynical about the failure of accountability. But when you flaunt it, when it's out there for everybody to see, and whether you're Barack Obama, you say it's time for us to turn the page, or, you know, the country needs to move on, or whatever it is, it begins to undermine any type of like even mythical idea of what this stuff is supposed to be. And, you know, now, you know, Donald Trump, he's a convicted felon. I don't think it means anything to anybody. You know, people might be a little bit some people might be marginally more disgusted by Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, the important thing is going to be what does he do as president? And all of that stuff is ultimately going to be a reflection of essentially a strain of Republican politics and conservative ideology that has been around for decades and decades. You know, getting the Panama Canal back is not a new thing. Getting Greenland is not a new thing on the right. This has been around for ages and ages. Invading Canada, I'm not sure has been out there as much in conservative circles, but maybe.
Not for quite a while, at least. You know, we'd have to go back a few hundred years, but I do. You know, that element of not having of lacking accountability. Like Obama, when he came into office, he wasn't an outsider, obviously, but for younger people and others that got excited about him, he definitely was a contrast to, specifically in the primary,
he was a change candidate.
Hillary Clinton, at the very least, a change candidate, right? And Donald Trump has the outsider thing going for him, even though he is the insider. And it's just almost to a certain degree, these court cases, and as we were talking earlier with Asita, the bipartisan outrage about his criminality reinforces that outsider notion, because I don't think that when we preach democracy, people can't even conceive of having right now a president that represents them. We just haven't had that. And the people that Democrats have put up as their general election nominee for quite some time, they've just been shadows of the Obama era and reflection, or people who are, you know, Washington elites through and through. And so at the very least, I think people just like the idea that he'll entertain them. He's an elite on my side, and look at how they're coming for him. And it just rolls off his back for that very reason.
That's the when we interviewed, and I can't remember her name, author, and this was now 6-7 years ago, the book on Joseph Mesmer and mesmerism. The idea that the audience knows the guy's a liar, but that he's lying on their behalf.
Yep.
And they're in on it in some fashion is, well, that's why they came up with the term mesmerism. It's mesmerizing.
It's a trope in this country. He's Dirty Harry. He's the cop that breaks the rules and everyone's mad at him, but he gets things done at the end of the day. Like, that's the kind of thing that
they think he gets things done.
Well, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that that's the brand that he has successfully captured in politics, and it's why he's able to overperform Republicans in the midterms, and it's why it's especially dangerous for people to take ideological lessons from his victory. He's leading a mass cult, basically, and the Democrats preemptively caving as if this was an ideological election is insane.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.